Now we take the conversation to Ghana, where the Ghanaians are in panic mode as the local currency Cedi continues to depreciate against major international currencies, especially the US dollar. The Minister of Finance, Ken Ofori-Atta, has, however, urged Ghanaians not to panic as the economy will bounce back soon. He assured Ghanaians that the government is working around the clock to get the economy back in shape.
Well, despite this, many Ghanaians are still worried about the future of its beloved currency, especially as more African countries are being hit badly by inflation. Joining us now from Accra, Ghana, is Ghanaian editor and public affairs analyst Wilberforce Asari to give us insights on this development. Good morning, Mr. Asari. Thanks for joining us all the way from Ghana.
Good morning, and thank you for having me as always.
Absolutely. The International Monetary Fund has started talks with Ghana over a $3 billion US dollar deal, I beg your pardon. And last month, IMF officials said they expected to reach an agreement before the end of the year. What do we know about this?
Indeed, yes. So Ghana is currently in negotiation with the IMF for a $3 billion bailout. Just as several other countries are knocking on the doors of IMF, Ghana is also doing same. At the just ended spring meeting of the IMF in Washington, D.C., the finance minister of Ghana, Ken Ofori-Atta, and his delegation were there, continuing with the negotiations that began in Accra about a month ago. The assurances that we have had from both sides, the sides being Ghana's delegation and the IMF authorities, is that negotiations are going smoothly, and it is anticipated that hopefully before the end of 2022, Ghana could get the IMF deal, which will largely open the country up back again to access the capital markets. Because of the challenges that have bedeviled the country from the start of COVID-19 and also the Russian invasion of Ukraine, the economic situation of the country has been exacerbated into the West zone. And so because of these difficulties and challenges, the government has had to require a bailout from the IMF. And that negotiation, as painful as it is, while it is going on, your economic situation doesn't take any new turn. And so it is painful, but it has to be endured until the IMF is satisfied and gives Ghana a program. So those negotiations are ongoing. The finance minister is upbeat about the fact that he could clinch a deal before the end of the year 2022.
Let's talk about the current situation. Now, according to Bloomberg, the Cedi has been listed as the worst currency globally, and comparing it to the 148 currencies being tracked. Now, we also have another report by Hanke Currency Watch List that has listed the Ghanaian and the Naira, of course, the Ghanaian Cedi and the Naira, as the two worst performing currencies. Now, according to Bloomberg, there's been a 52% loss this year. Talk to us about the actual situation and give us a picture of how this has affected the economy of Ghana from the top to the bottom.
Well, yeah, so the loss, I think, is more than 50%. I think it's about 60% of depreciation over the last 4 or 5 months alone, because sometime in February or March this year, we were buying a dollar to about 6 cedis. And today, as we speak, on the forex market, if you want to buy a dollar, you need about 15 Ghana cedis. And so if you do the math, that's about an addition of 9 Ghana cedis. So that is a very huge depreciation and devaluation of the Ghanaian cedi. And our country is heavily dependent on imports. We import virtually everything that we consume in high quantities in this country, from chicken to sugar to oil to rice. And it is the importers who require the US dollar to be able to go to the international market and purchase these products and to import them into our country. And so because of that, there's been a huge demand for the United States dollars in our country. And once there's a lot of demand, it increases the price of the rate of exchange. And that's what we are seeing in our country. There's also been very huge speculation on the forex market, because it is this, experts believe that it is the speculation on the market that is driving the increase in terms of the Cedi to dollar equation. And so it's really been hard and difficult here. And there's been a lot of agitation, even on the media front, about the rate of increase and the level at which the dollar is, the Cedi is losing its value to the United States dollar. And so I can tell you that there is a lot of concern being expressed from all quarters, especially by the traders who import all these things into our country. And there is also the concurrent discussion going on that why do we as a country depend so much on imports when there are some of the things that we are importing that we could actually grow in our country. For example, your country, Nigeria, has banned the importation of rice. And there's the call that why can't Ghana also take that decision when we are using as much as $700 million to import rice on an annual basis. So these are the challenges that are arising out of the currency depreciation that we are having in our country.
Oh, well, you know, it's the success of the ban on importation of rice in Nigeria might still be argued, you know, to some extent. But let's stay with Ghana, you know, and I want to share some of the fears that, you know, a lot of people would have. But let me just quickly share this with you. It says here that some studies find that the IMF loan arrangements contributes to increased poverty. For example, it shows participation in IMF programs worsen income distributions, especially for poor and labor class, which can increase rates of poverty. And of course, research that has been carried out between 1986 and 2016 have showed that in 81 developing countries, the level of poverty did increase after they got assistance from the IMF. So I want to get your thoughts on, you know, what Ghana might be getting itself into. You know, is this the only option? And is Ghana, you know, really ready for the possible outcomes of taking billions of dollars from the IMF?
Well, so the going to the International Monetary Fund, which is a Bretton Woods institution and the last lender of resort, is not the way forward for any emerging economy or developing country. The statistics have shown clearly, and I agree with you completely on the statistics that you have put out there. But it is important to know that the IMF is the last lender of resort. And so when all else have failed and nobody is willing to open its doors to you, the only door left to you is the IMF. And that's the reason why in the current circumstances where we find ourselves as a globe, you would see that all the credit agencies and crediting organizations are not willing to deal with any country. And so everybody is going to the direction of the IMF. I believe strongly that going to the IMF is not going to change Ghana's fortunes. But what it will do to us is that it will give us a window of opportunity to better manage our economy post-COVID-19 and hopefully post the Russian invasion of Ukraine. And it is extremely important that everybody gets to understand the challenges that we are in, even here in Ghana and anywhere else, including Nigeria, where you are because of external factors that are beyond our control. And so the IMF, being the last lender of resort, becomes extremely important for every struggling economy to go there. One of the conversations that I've heard going on as far as Africa is concerned is really about debt forgiveness. And sometime in December, I think the 13th December to 15th December, the US president is going to be meeting with African leaders in Washington, D.C. And I'm told that one of the main things African leaders are going to push for is for the United States and other institutions to forgive the debt of Africans. Looking at the situation that we are in now, without debt forgiveness, it's going to be very difficult for African countries to bounce back. And again, it poses a lot of security threat to several African countries, because if agitations continue internally and there's instability in African countries like we have seen in some parts of West Africa, Burkina Faso, Mali, Guinea, what it means is that if Africa is not at peace, the rest of the world will not be at peace. So there are challenges, but let's hope and pray that those who matter will stand up and support those of us in the developing world.
We know that the inflation, the spiraling inflation, has of course triggered several protests over the course of the months. We've seen protests against the price hikes, taxes, levies, fuel hikes, and the likes. Now, would you say in any way that this depreciation is in any way tied to perhaps the Christmas rush, as Ghanaians typically begin shopping in October? And are there fears that it will get worse from here?
Well, yes, so I agree entirely with you that the issue about Christmas is one of the reasons why we are having the challenges that we are having, particularly with the exchange rate. And it comes back to the fact that we tend to import everything. During this Christmas Yuletide that is ahead of us, we are going to import more rice because a lot more people are going to eat rice. We are going to import Christmas trees. We are going to import drinks. We are going to import all kinds of things just to be able to meet the taste that we have built for ourselves as Africans in Africa. But our tastes largely are products from the West and all that. So I agree that the Christmas, the dependency of the Christmas celebration is influencing the rate of demand for the US dollar and also the rise in inflation and all those kind of things. It is true, but there is very little that can be done about it, perhaps until the Christmas period passes. But experience from the observations in Ghana has taught me that just after Christmas, people, especially the multinationals, they end their financial year getting to April. And so just after Christmas, January, February, March, they are all preparing to repatriate their profits back to their parent companies outside of Africa where they are operating. And that also has a negative impact on the exchange rates in our various countries. So beyond the Christmas vacation, there is still going to be challenges just after Christmas because of the repatriation of profits by these international organizations. And it is extremely important that we are able to arrest the situation now. Either than that, it will get worse. Now in Ghana, the cedi is 15 Ghana cedis to $1. There's the high potential that by the time we get to 2023 March, we might be hitting 20 Ghana cedis to $1. I don't know for the Nigeria what the situation will be. Very difficult.
Well, is that the 50 Ghana cedis, is there a parallel market rate or is that the government rate?
Can you say that again?
Is that the government regulated rate or that's a parallel market rate in Ghana?
So we have the Forex Bureau exchange rate and then the interbank exchange rate.
Yeah.
Usually they are not so different. So the Forex Bureau rate will be just a little above the interbank. So currently in Ghana, the interbank rate is about 14 cedis, 50 pesos to $1. And the Forex rate is about 15 cedis to $1. So the difference is not so much because if you go to the so-called black market, there's a tendency for you to get a little bit more than the interbank rate. So that's the difference.
Okay, all right. Well, let's also quickly just get your thoughts on the support, that, there might be coming from Germany and France. Can you tell us the nature of this funding? Is this still going to be happening?
Well, yeah, so the international the other countries, the developed world, are showing signs of wanting to offer support to African countries. They have their diplomatic missions in the various countries. They are here in Ghana. They are able to gauge the mood. They are able to understand the security situation. They are able to predict what the markets are saying and what is happening in the markets and all that. And they report to their various countries. And so we see a lot of diplomatic activity going on and a lot of diplomatic discussions going on because the more it gets volatile, the more it gets difficult and challenging, the more the security situation becomes appalling. And these foreign entities and foreign countries who are represented in our country become alarmed. So I believe that it is out of those alarming information and statistics and signals they are picking up that is informing the communications that they are sending to their countries. Again, we must also understand that There is rising inflation in the United Kingdom. Recently, when I visited the United Kingdom, their inflation has gone up to 10%, which is unprecedented. In the United States, they are trying to control very much their inflation by increasing their policy rate, and it makes the dollar strong, and that is even contributing to the challenges that we are having here in Africa and all that. So they are interested in supporting, but they themselves have their own challenges they are dealing with, and that is what exacerbates the whole problem. It's a difficult situation.
Wilberforce Osari, thank you so much for your time this morning, and we hope that Ghana is able to find the answers to the questions surrounding its economy at this time.
I thank you very much indeed.
All right. And of course, like I always like to put things in proper context, the interbank rate in Ghana is currently about $13.47, cedis rather, to the dollar. In South Africa, it's about 18.06. In Rwanda, it's 1,054 Rwandan franc to the US dollar. Nigeria, of course, is 431 naira to the dollar. And in Zambia, it's 15.81 Zambian kwacha to the US dollar.
And this is on the parallel market? Or
no, that's the interbank.
The interbank rate. So
yes.
It's important to mention that there's
these
also the
rates
parallel,
are higher, you know,
exactly. And in some countries, it's very difficult. Access to forex in a lot of these countries is very difficult. So most times they would always result to the parallel market.
Very true.